Vanessa Holt had perfected the art of balance. By day, she was the epitome of grace, a devoted wife, a loving mother, the kind of woman neighbors admired and envied in equal measure. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and the city's lights flickered on, she became someone else entirely. Inside the dimly lit, high-end lounge of Obsidian, she wasn't Vanessa anymore. Here, behind sleek black doors and velvet drapes, she was known as Annabelle. A name whispered in low, appreciative voices. A woman who knew no boundaries, no expectations, only pleasure and power. Tonight, the club pulsed with anticipation. Crystal glasses clinked, laughter hummed against the soft beats of music, and strangers exchanged knowing glances. Vanessa, Annabelle, felt the familiar rush as she sipped her martini, eyes scanning the room for someone who could match her fire. Her phone vibrated against the marble bar top. She reached for it absently, expecting a message from home. Instead, what she saw sent a chill down her spine. "You're playing with fire. It's all about to come crashing down." Her fingers tightened around the glass, the weight of the words sinking in. She glanced around, but the faces in the club remained the same, smirking, seducing, indulging. No one seemed to be watching her, yet someone was. Vanessa forced a steady breath, setting the phone face down. It had to be a sick joke. Maybe a jealous lover, maybe an ex-client who didn't take rejection well. Either way, she couldn't let it shake her. Later that evening, when she returned home, she found her husband, Andrew, in his office, poring over blueprints with a look of quiet concentration. He barely looked up as she walked in, pressing a soft kiss to his cheek. "Long night?" he murmured, still focused on his work. "Just drinks with Lauren," she lied smoothly, hanging her coat. "What's keeping you up?" Andrew sighed, rubbing his temples. "My firm just landed a massive case. We're investigating shady dealings tied to a high-profile club in the city." Her breath caught. "Which club?" He finally looked at her, oblivious to the panic creeping into her expression. "A place called Obsidian. Ever heard of it?" Vanessa's heart pounded against her ribs. She forced a smile, shaking her head. "No, sounds exclusive." He nodded. "It is, and something tells me there's a lot more hidden beneath the surface." As he returned to his files, Vanessa stood frozen in place, her world beginning to crack. The warning message wasn't a joke. Someone knew. And now her husband was unknowingly walking straight into the fire she had spent years hiding. The next morning, Vanessa woke up with a heavy feeling in her chest. The anonymous message wouldn't leave her mind. Someone knew about her double life, but who? And what did they want? She brewed a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the terrace. The sun was just rising, casting a golden glow over the garden. At first glance, everything seemed normal, but the moment she unlocked her phone, her world tilted again. New message. "Now you know I'm not joking. Be ready. Meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. You'll get the address later." An image was attached. Vanessa didn't recognize it at first, but when she did, her fingers started to tremble. It was a photo of her. At the club, without a mask. "Shit," she whispered. Feeling panic creep in, Andrew walked into the kitchen, rolling up his shirt sleeves. "You look kind of pale today. Everything okay?" Vanessa quickly locked her screen. "Yeah, just didn't sleep well. I get it. I can't stop thinking about that whole Obsidian situation. Something's definitely off there." She nodded, hiding the slight tremor in her hands. By noon, she received the meeting location. It was a small cafe on the outskirts of town. When Vanessa stepped inside, her eyes scanned the room. In the far corner, sitting at a table, was a woman. Lauren. "Damn it." Vanessa exhaled. This was the worst-case scenario. She walked over and sat down across from her. "I hope you have a damn good explanation." Lauren smirked, sipping her latte. "Oh, I do. I have everything, Vanessa. Photos, videos, even witnesses. If you don't want your perfect little life to come crashing down, we'll make a deal." "What do you want?" Lauren leaned in. "Money, a little power, and maybe a few of your secrets in exchange for mine." Vanessa clenched her fists under the table. She was cornered, but one thing was certain. Lauren wouldn't stop until she got exactly what she wanted, which meant Vanessa had two choices: give in or find a way to outplay her former friend. Vanessa never thought she'd find herself back here. Obsidian had always been her sanctuary, a place where she could escape her routine and become someone else. But now it had turned into the battleground for her potential downfall. She stood outside Garrett Wells' office door, Once upon a time, he had been more than just the club's owner to her. Their secret affair had lasted for months before she finally decided it had to end. But Garrett wasn't the type to let go easily. The door swung open, and there he was, tall, impeccably groomed, with that easy smirk that used to make her knees weak. "Vanessa Holt, either you missed me or you're in trouble. Let me guess, the latter?" He gestured for her to step inside. She took a deep breath and walked in. The office was just as she remembered: leather, dark wood, dim lighting, and the faint scent of expensive whiskey. "I need your help," she said, cutting to the chase. Garrett settled into his massive desk chair, lacing his fingers together as he studied her. "Of course you do, Vanessa. People always come back to me when they need something. So, tell me, what's your crisis?" She pulled out her phone and placed it on the desk. The screen displayed a photo taken inside the club. "Someone is blackmailing me. If this gets out, my life is over." Garrett glanced at the image, then back at her. "And you thought I'd help? What a good Samaritan I must be. You know everyone who comes through this place. You can find out who's behind it." There was tension in her voice, but also hope. He let out a quiet chuckle and stood, circling the desk. "And what do I get in return?" He ran a finger lightly along the inside of her wrist, making her flinch. "What do you want?" she asked, already dreading the answer. "You know what I want. Come back to me, even if it's just for a while." His voice softened, making it all the more dangerous. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She needed Garrett's protection. "But at what cost?" "Give me some time to think," she whispered. He nodded, his smirk widening. "You have 24 hours, sweetheart. After that, I might just lose interest." As she stepped out of his office, the air felt heavier. Now she had to decide just how far she was willing to go to keep her secret safe. At home, everything seemed normal. Except Andrew. He was paying closer attention, watching her longer than usual, asking more questions. "You're acting weird today," he said over dinner. "Something happened?" She looked up from her plate, forcing herself to appear casual. "Just tired. You always say work drains you. I guess I'm feeling the same." Andrew nodded, but didn't seem convinced. Later that night, she stepped out onto the terrace for some fresh air. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A new message. "Your husband is already suspicious. It won't be long before he knows everything." Her mouth went dry. Whoever this was, they were watching her. The next morning, Andrew was acting even stranger. As she prepared breakfast for Alex, she noticed him intently scrolling through something on his phone. The moment she stepped closer, he locked the screen. "Something important?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Yeah, I'm thinking of hiring a private investigator. This whole Obsidian situation is too murky. We need someone who can get to the truth." The coffee cup nearly slipped from her hands. She set it down quickly. "A detective? Can't you figure it out yourself?" "I could, but time is valuable. Owen Carter has the right connections." The name hit her like a punch to the gut. She knew exactly who Carter was. He wasn't just good, he was relentless. If he took the case, her secrets would surface faster than she could come up with excuses. She forced a smile. "I hope he finds what you're looking for." Andrew studied her carefully, like he was searching for something in her expression. "Yeah?" he said. "Me too." She knew her time was running out. She had to act fast before Carter uncovered the truth that would destroy everything. Owen Carter was old school, a detective who had zero tolerance for lies, especially when it came to secret lives. His experience told him that the more perfect the image, the darker the secrets behind it. And now, he was looking at one of those cases, the Obsidian Club, and its possible connection to Vanessa Holt. Sitting in his office, he flipped through a dossier. Over the past few weeks, he had gathered enough intel to understand that Obsidian wasn't just an elite hotspot for wealthy adrenaline junkies. It was potentially a hub for criminal operations, including blackmail, money laundering, and setups. But one detail intrigued him the most: the identity of Annabelle. He had ordered footage from surveillance cameras placed near the club. 2 hours later, printed stills lay before him. A woman stepping out of the club in an expensive dress, flashing a dazzling smile, but with a hint of unease in her eyes. Carter leaned in. He had seen that face before. On his laptop screen, a photo of Vanessa Holt stared back at him, pulled from her family business's website. He let out a short chuckle. The perfect wife. the successful mother, and now, a suspect. He raised his phone to his ear. Andrew, you were right. Your wife has secrets. Big ones. Andrew Holt wasn't the kind of man who took the truth easily, but when he received photos of his wife entering Obsidian and anonymous messages hinting at her secret life, he felt his whole world crumble. He sat in his car parked outside his office, in his hands, his phone. Another message flashed on the screen. Do you really know who you're living with? A chill ran down his spine. He had always trusted Vanessa. They had been together for over 10 years, but now he was looking at proof that all this time he had been living with a stranger. He ran a hand over his face and dialed Carter's number. Are you sure about this? He asked, though deep down he already knew the answer. 100%, the detective's voice was calm. If you want, I can dig deeper, find out just how far this goes. Andrew clenched his jaw. Do whatever it takes. I need the truth. All of it. That evening, he came home earlier than usual. Vanessa was at the stove cooking dinner. When he walked in, she glanced at him with a warm smile. You're home early. Everything okay? He shut the door, not answering right away. Images of her flashed in his mind. The woman he thought was his other half had been lying to him. For how long? Weeks? Months? Years? We need to talk, he finally said, sitting down at the kitchen island. Vanessa wiped her hands on a towel, her heart starting to race. About what? Andrew placed his phone in front of her. The open photos spoke for themselves. She froze, feeling her chest tighten. Is there something you want to tell me? He asked, locking eyes with her. She swallowed hard. She had only a few seconds to come up with an explanation. But was that even possible? A knock on the door shattered the tense silence. Andrew slowly got up and went to answer. Standing at the doorstep was Detective Carter, holding a folder full of documents. I think you both need to see this, he said, stepping inside. Vanessa felt her world collapse completely. Her entire secret life was now laid out on the table, right in front of her husband and a detective. And outside in the shadows, someone was watching their house. And that someone knew. This was only the beginning. Vanessa sat in her car in an empty parking lot a few blocks from home. Her fingers drummed anxiously against the steering wheel, replaying Andrew's voice in her head. Do you have something you want to tell me? Her world was collapsing, and there was no way out. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Garrett. Time's almost up, Annabelle. Get here. She knew this meeting with Garrett was her last shot. He wasn't the kind of man you ignored. He knew too much, and worse, he had connections. Very dangerous connections. Vanessa started the engine and drove to the club. Pulling up to Obsidian, she parked near the staff entrance. The security team recognized her on sight and let her in without question. Garrett was waiting in his office. Tall, self-assured, he stood by the bar, pouring whiskey into 2 glasses. You look like you've seen a ghost, he smirked, handing her a drink. Then again, maybe it's just your conscience. Vanessa ignored his sarcasm. You said you could help me. What's the catch? Garrett took a sip and leaned in closer. It's simple. I make the blackmail problem disappear, and you come back to me. For good. She snapped her head up. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm dead serious, sweetheart. You don't have a choice. Either you're with me, or I leave you to fend for yourself, with your husband, the detective, and whoever else comes knocking. Vanessa felt her throat go dry. Fear coiled around her like a vice. You didn't just call me here for a talk, did you? She asked, locking eyes with him. Garrett grinned. There's someone downstairs you need to see. He stood up and gestured for her to follow him. Meanwhile, Andrew sat in his office, staring at the photographs scattered across his desk. Rage simmered beneath the surface. Detective Carter sat across from him, studying his reaction. You expect me to just sit back and take this? Andrew asked, his eyes never leaving the pictures. No, I expect you to be smart about it, Carter replied. Your wife is tangled up with people who don't play by the rules. And Obsidian isn't just some club. There's money, power, blackmail, it's all connected. Andrew leaned forward, his jaw tight. Can you prove it? Carter reached into his jacket, pulled out a folder, and tossed it onto the desk. Everything you need is in there, including recorded conversations between Garrett and his associates. Andrew flipped through the documents. His expression darkened with each page. So, you're telling me not to handle this myself? Carter held his gaze. I'm telling you not to do something you'll regret. The police are already planning a raid on Obsidian, if your wife is there when it happens." Andrew clenched his fists. God damn it. He grabbed his phone and dialed Vanessa's number. The line rang and rang, but no answer. His eyes drifted back to the photos. His wife, the woman he had loved. Now she was nothing but a stranger. Vanessa sat in the corner of the dark room, arms crossed over her chest. Her heart was pounding, thoughts racing one after another. Garrett stood by the window, smoking a cigar. He looked calm, but Vanessa knew better. This was just the calm before the storm. "It'll all be over soon," he said, blowing out a thick cloud of smoke. "Detective Carter thinks he's outsmarted me, but he has no idea who he's dealing with." Vanessa looked up. "Are you sure you have everything under control?" Garrett smirked. "Absolutely." But at that moment, a deafening crash shattered the silence. The door burst open, and armed agents stormed in. A voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "FBI, everybody stay where you are." Garrett flicked his cigar into a glass of whiskey. He didn't look scared, but Vanessa could see him calculating his options. His men reached for their weapons but hesitated when they saw the sheer number of agents. Detective Carter approached Vanessa. "Game over, Mrs. Holt," he said, snapping handcuffs onto Garrett's wrists. Garrett turned to Vanessa, a sly grin on his face. "Hope it was worth it, darling." 2 days later, Vanessa sat in her house, staring at the suitcase by the door. The house was empty. Andrew was gone. She had known this would happen, but facing it was much harder than she expected. The doorbell rang. Vanessa opened it to find Detective Carter standing on the porch. "Can I come in?" he asked. She nodded and stepped aside. Carter walked in, glancing around the living room before settling into a chair. He looked exhausted but satisfied. "Garrett's going away for a long time. Lauren disappeared, but we'll find her. And you, Mrs. Holt, got lucky. No charges." Vanessa exhaled. "Doesn't feel like luck." Carter frowned. "I get it, but let's be honest. You knew the risks. A double life always falls apart." She stayed silent. "What now?" she finally asked. Carter shrugged. "That's up to you." He stood and headed for the door. "Good luck, Vanessa." When the door clicked shut behind him, she looked back at the suitcase. Then, slowly, she slipped off her wedding ring and placed it on the table. Taking a deep breath, she picked up the suitcase and walked out, leaving the past behind.